Oh, dear Ewa, do you think that we can start? Are you prepared?
Absolutely, I'm prepared. So
okay, great. So I will just introduce you very, very briefly, and then I will then give the floor to you. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Tak, teraz sa vám kam stalo. Takže prepáčte, ja sa budem pozerať tam, ale budem hovoriť k vám. Je to trochu schizofrenické. Takže dobrý večer. Hello everybody, it's so nice to have you here again for our last lecture in the series Reflections on Architecture, this year on Polish architecture scene. I'm very happy to have with us, at least online, our last but not least presenter, who is Ewa Porębska. She's editor-in-chief of the most important Polish journal of architecture, Architektura-murator, and I think that she will very well frame all the lectures and tendencies and all the architectural works we've been listening to this autumn. So I'm very, very much looking forward to it. And Ewa, thank you very much for joining us. And I will pass the word to you. And the floor is yours. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. Dear all, I'm very blessed to be here with you today to talk about contemporary Polish architecture. First of all, I would like to thank Henrietta Morawiczkowa for inviting me to participate in the Reflections on Architecture lecture series, a project that, thanks to Henrietta and your university, focuses on the contemporary European architecture scene. It is very important, especially for students, to keep a close eye on architectural trends, particularly in times when new challenges are appearing in front of our eyes. I mean, such as those related to the ongoing war in many parts of the world, or climate change, which is particularly noticeable today. Yes. Few words about me. I have been working as an architecture critic and expert for many, many years, and what is perhaps interesting and quite rare, I am the editor-in-chief of Architektura magazine, which I founded from the beginning for 29 years now. It is devoted primarily to Polish architecture, and over these years it has created, one might say, a chronicle of the best Polish architecture. I'm also an expert of European architecture Mies van den Rohe Prize at the European Prize for Urban Public Space and many, many others. This allows me to constantly observe the most important trends and tendencies, which I use, among other things, to create concepts for architectural exhibitions, competitions, and debates. I mention this to emphasize that my choice of objects today, which I would like to present to you as students of architecture, intentionally and fully consciously, will not focus only on showing the best architecture. I will rather focus today on showing the challenges and dilemma in recent architecture and the choices that you, today's students and tomorrow's designers, will face. But let's start with some very basic facts about Poland. When we talk about Polish contemporary architecture, we cannot abstract from the fact how much destruction Poland suffered during World War II. Suffice it to say that the capital, Warsaw, was destroyed in parts almost in 100%, I mean Old Town. The war brought the destruction of 84% of the buildings of the left bank of Warsaw. Today, when we look at this shocking photo it also brings to mind today's time. I'm thinking of photos from the destroyed cities of Ukraine or areas in Gaza Strip. The question of rebuilding from the ruins turns out to be completely topical issue. But let's move to a time, to the post-war years of Polish dependence on Soviet Union, to autumn 1988, when strike caused by workers and the democratic opposition prompted the communist authorities to enter into talks with the opposition in 1989, and then the first almost free parliamentary elections in Poland. Let's remember that in Central and Eastern Europe since 1989 there has been a whole series of changes, commonly known as an autumn of nations. As a result of the changes, there were great transformations, including in architecture and construction, of new architectural structures, many of which were mere copies of foreign office buildings or other commercial development. The real construction boom, however, was occurred in Poland since 2004, when Poland joined the European Union. The exchange of knowledge, development funds, results of the construction of many important also Polish culture buildings, including museums, concert halls, and others, partly financed by European funds. In such a context, I would like to introduce you to the successes of Polish architecture in European perspective. Certainly, the most recognized and prestigious award in Europe is Mr. Award in Poland between 98 and 23. Only 11 objects were on the so-called short list, compared to only one in Slovakia. For 24 edition, it was 9 from Poland. Let me tell you about some of the most important Polish projects which were groundbreaking for wider perception of architecture. The Mieczysław Karlowicz Philharmonic Hall in Szczecin, this building is impossible not to notice, and once noticed, not to remember. Wherever one meets in real space or you come across the photos in the internet, one scene and cannot be mistaken for any other. For a formal sense, it is an architectural icon, but it is not only the legibility that makes it the most important architectural symbol 2015 in Europe. So what is its essence? Modesty and adequacy. From the perspective of pedestrian, the building appears as a rhythm of narrow, tightly situated medieval townhouses, only that they are covered with a uniform white material. Thanks to such partitions, the building does not seem too monumental. In today's reality, when after 2007 crisis, one no longer expects from building architecture an overwhelming richness and uniqueness of form, let's talk about other assets. Sensitivity to the history of the place, social usefulness, properly realized function, adequate to the scale of the city and the region, and preservation of financial rationality, which is very important. These are demands of the times which this architecture has met. And what else? Following Christian Norbeck Schultz's lead, the architecture should be understood in terms of meaningful, symbolic forms. Behind the white facade, we discover a spacious, minimalist white lobby and 2 concert halls. The center of the building, the main golden hall, is as memorable as exterior. You can have the impression that we are inside a perfectly sculptured rock, built from a unique mineral, and this feeling has a deep symbolic meaning. After all, gold is a sign of all that is higher, glorification, an image of sunlight and godly intelligence. White as a spiritual center, gold as a highest enlightenment, symbolizes wealthy, the Philharmonic building. And now we see Katyn Museum in Warsaw. The museum is devoted to Katyn massacre. This is the name given to the act of genocide committed to the spring of 1940 by NKWD functionaries against Polish prisoners of war, held in Soviet death camp and prisons in Western Belarus and Ukraine. The museum is located in a historic caponier belonging to the 19th century Warsaw citadel. The project is landscape architecture in nature, and it is the result of scrupulous conservation work combined with brave special interventions rich of symbolism. One glass, moment, water. A skillful use of visual access, creation of landscape path appealing to visitors' imagination, or even slight interventions in the form of artifacts impressed in red-colored concrete walls make visiting the museum a deeply moving experience. And dialogue center. This is the biggest success of a public space realized in Poland in an official European competition. What is interesting is that, as you can see on the photo, this is public space, which is also a building, and it is located right next to the Philharmonic Szczecin I mentioned earlier. It is one of few museums in Poland resulting from a grassroots initiative. The venue is to present the contemporary history of Szczecin, a city destroyed in nearly 70% in World War II. The Jalta agreements assigned it to Poland with the resulting almost total change of the population. The architectural design is exceptional. The structure succeeds in being a city square and a building at the same time. Very important is the fact that while the interiors contain a multi-layer historic exhibition, the roof is an open public space where everyday life goes on. The modest form provides an excellent accompaniment to its neighbor, the Mieczysław Karłowik Philharmonic Hall. 1 minute break because I must take a pill. I'm sorry. Yes. And here we see an illustration of this building that perfectly illustrates one of the favorite motifs of architect Robert Konieczny from Kabuka Promes Studio. Huge, rotating, locked gates. He also used this motif recently in his latest realization, the Plato Museum in Ostrava. However, let's stop for a moment just at the Dialogue Center project. It is important to know that in 2016, the Dialogue Center, by the decision of the jury of European Public Space Award, announced that it is the best public space in Europe. But not alone, exequo with the project of renovation of the irrigation system in the thermal gardens in Cal de Montibú in Spain. As a member of the jury, I explained that the awarding of exequo prizes highlights two important urban trends. In Szczecin was appreciated a public space of great symbolic and emotional importance. And in Spain, the jury recognized the ability of the local community to cultivate tradition and cooperate to achieve a common goal. I am sorry for just 30 seconds because I'm not quite in a good shape, so 30 seconds and I will come. I'm sorry, I didn't want to change the date of our meeting, so that's why I must try to do it even I'm not, I'm a little bit...
Dear Ewa, you don't need to apologize. We understand it completely, so just relax.
Okay, thank you. Over time, however, a growing wave of public criticism has been directed toward the dialogue center. And it is because of the small amount of greenery in the square, which was designed mainly as a meeting place for large events and mass gatherings. Climate change is causing the public to demand more and more green space, and this is becoming a priority over time. So, after a few years of implementation, designer Robert Konieczny, following public votes, proposed increasing plantings in this area. Let's highlight the growing public criticism of contemporary architecture, which is blamed for its negative impact on the climate, on the entire surrounding environment. We already know that the construction industry and the use of buildings are responsible for more than a third of global dioxide emissions, one of the main causes of climate change. Cities and architecture on the current scale are emitting pollution and appropriating more spaces. This common understanding is also augmented by the simplicity with which anyone and any phenomenon can be criticized on the internet. An example of this trend in the discussion connected with the recent nomination to the Architecture Award of the President of Warsaw. Five Corners Square was created at the site of busy intersection of 5 streets as a pedestrian-friendly square without barriers and curbs. Growing from the hard surface of large format architectural concrete slabs and large field trees. Under, we can find an infrastructure that protects the trees' roots, provides water supply and air access. However, according to residents, the Five Corners Square is a place that turned out to be so-called betonosis, means too much concrete. Shortly after the opening, negative statements dominated the internet, radio, the press. Residents, citizens, too much concrete, criticized too much concrete and too little greenery in the renovated place. Over time, these negative voices began to quiet down, and the square became a place that is domesticated tamed. One of the buildings that has become the object of the greatest amount of bad publicity and negative comments is the Museum of Modern Art in Warsaw, which is currently under construction. The building of the new headquarters of the Museum of Modern Art in Warsaw is being constructed in Defilat Square, right next to the post-Soviet Palace of Culture and Science. The construction history is confusing and very complicated. At the moment, let's just say that competition for this facility has been held 3 times and always with elements of scandal. But at the end, the New York-based studio Thomas Pfeiffer and Partners, selected in 2014 in a month-long procedure conducted by the negotiation, is responsible for the implemented project. I had the honor of being a member of the committee deciding on the architect at the time. However, the austere block did not win the sympathy of the residents. Just look at caricatures and memes. They say, even the Palace of Culture looks beautiful next to it. I'm afraid that even these glamorous staircases will not have the negative perception of the form of the museum for a long, long time. But in architecture, habituation works strongly. That's why I think that over time, the building will get acceptance, become tame, means our own, means beautiful. I think also that it is a kind of nostalgia, and it is also still vital, a nostalgia for the past, for historicizing forms, as exemplified by one of the alternative projects of a not very known studio. However, public criticism is sometimes painful for architects. It also provides a strong and, at the end, positive impetus for change. And the pressure of public opinion on climate issues is proving effective. Let us also not forget that in recent times there have been new, extremely valuable model guidelines for architects adopted by themselves, such as Architecture Sans Frontières International Organization. It is about cooperation for fair and sustainable development initiatives. Architects declare climate and biodiversity emergency. And, which I mentioned earlier, also important is the voice of public, not just the professional. I think that such values are always presented in the competition which I initiated in Poland in 1996 and which is still one of the most highly recognized in my country. Its name speaks for itself and the evaluation criteria is related to its name, Life in Architecture. Today, such criterion may seem obvious, but almost 30 years ago, it wasn't. I want to introduce you the winners of this competition at the last edition of 2020, because these facilities were later among the nominations of even the short list of European competitions. Here is the local activity center in Rybnik. And this is the prototype space designed by Katowice office Marlena Wolnik M.A. Architekci, and won a special prize and the title of realization best responding to the challenges of the modern world 2020 in Poland. The authors succeed in developing a kind of framework for urban activities without fully defining the use. The idea is that the centers will be built in neighborhoods where there are no places with inclusive functions. In each location, they will look a little different and serve slightly different purposes. These are being determined journey with residents during several levels of public consultations. These buildings are not meant to be perfect, just as none of us are. They will have to be taken care of, just as we have to take care of our relatives or friends, emphasized Marlena Worling, an architect. The main prize of Life in Architecture Competition 2020 is the Best Socially Responsible Building category, went to the Home for Homeless in Jankowice. The jury said, the award was given for the sensitivity with which the architects composed their work for responsibility towards people and nature. This framework, noble in this modesty, is filled every day with the lives of ex-homeless, ex-excluded, and disrespected. What emphasizes is the humility of the placing of respect for the needs, tastes, and habits of the users over the pursuit of an idealistic formal unity of the work. This is expressed into skillful use of variety of materials, sometimes sourced from donation or demolition. We have seen examples of projects that are socially responsible, modest, sensitive to people's needs, and do not destroy the environment. But after all, it is the minority in the world production. Why? What are the characteristics of the architectural profession? This is one of the questions I asked myself in the exhibition, which in 2022 summed up 40 years of my activity as a critic and expert. One of these is that our profession filters between opposites. We can find egocentrism and altruism, pragmatism and idealism. These opposites cause the architect to come to its bitter conclusion over time. Let us recall here the words of Oscar Niemeyer during his prize speech and note that Oscar Niemeyer talked about architecture in the words we are used to, emphasizing the role of free fantasy. But if you read the whole speech, you will see bitter words about serving the authorities. Today, the declaration looks different. I think this statement by Anne Lacaton and Jean-Philippe Bassal is one of the most well-known and not contested by almost anyone. Demolition should be urgently stopped, eliminate, remove, cut, and start with the city as it is, exactly as it is, they say. Let's take a look at the new developments in Poland, which seem exemplary of the terms of current trends. One of them is Market Square w Lonie, author Aleksandra Wasilkowska. Markets, especially in smaller towns, are an important place for social integration. The market in Bologna is one of the most interesting realizations of architect, artist, and a stage designer Aleksandra Wasilkowska, who is one of the few in Europe to specialize, among other things, in designed marketplaces and city toilets, which the authors call shadow architecture, due to the relegation of these spaces to the margins of public attention. Wasilkowska's design included the rehabilitation of market and enclaves and biodiversity. One 2/3 of the designed area is biologically active. The project turns a market space into a kind with more than 500 new trees and hundreds of shrubs and plants. The original canopy has become a new symbol of the town. In 2023, receiving the award from magazine Politica, the architect said, "I interpret this award as a growing achievement of my work on behalf of so-called shadow architecture. Therefore, it is the very, it is future, and future is feminist, the future is in the bush." And let's have a look at National Library of Poland, Warsaw. It is the redevelopment and modernization, architect Cornior studio, and it is also my this year Miss van den Rij Award nomination. The jury of Architectural Prize of President of the City of Warsaw, which has been awarded the Polish capital for 9 years, recognized this realization the best in 2022. It is appreciated not only the beauty of realization, the extraordinary architectural mastery in combining what is newly realized with what was found, revitalized, but with special respect given to the sensitive model adaptation of the space of the building, so it became accessible to people with disabilities. The National Library building was designed in 1960, but was realized for many years until the mid-90s. The large-scale modernist establishment composing the library with a large green area in the center of Warsaw, and in 21st century no longer met the needs of users due to both to outdated system of access and storage of collections and the technical defects of the building. After the modernization, the reading rooms of the National Library are 3 times larger and provide us 400 seats. There are 4 times as many books on the shelves with free access to the collection. The main idea was to make the National Library building more intuitive, ergonomic, and ecological, the authors says. So, what should an architect do to design according to the spirit of the times, architecture suitable for life, to take responsibility for the shape of the future? I think keep up with the times. It means read, watch exhibitions, stay open, stay informed, because the ideological debates, competitions, exhibitions, in the long run influence the direction of architecture's development. What does it mean in practice for an architecture student? It means learn, participate in discussion, listen to lectures, participate in such events as the Venice Architecture Biennale. Take a critical approach, get ahead of your time. Don't get excited about pretty pictures. Look for truth and usefulness. Then AI will not replace you. And it is also worth asking yourself, is it still possible to do something innovative under the fire of criticism? I think yes. which I will try to show you through several examples that, although controversial and questionable for many, exemplify very significant architecture. The Museum of Army is one of the components of the huge museum complex into which the Warsaw Citadel area, until recently occupied for the most part by military, has been transformed. Alongside it are the Cutting Museum, which I have already presented to you today, and a huge museum of Polish history opened a month ago. The building was built as a result of competition held a dozen years ago. It is worth noting that in those times the criteria for architecture were not exactly the same as today. Today, the criticism is not on the building itself, but of the yard, military parade ground in front of the museum. This aspect apart, the quality of implementation, the precision of the technical workmanship was impressed, as the authors write, walls made of architectural concrete colored in the mass brick red color, referring to color of the walls of the citadel. The wind and shadow playing on the facade are meant to give them a unique visual effect at any time of the year, say the authors, and it is impossible not to agree with such opinion. And here is Miedzianka shaft. I have already presented you today a project by the same author, Robert Konieczny, Promes. This is unusual building for several reasons, because the project of an artistic bookstore combined with a residential part was created in Miedzianka, a post-German town not too long no longer exists, which literally sunk into the ground as a robbery of copper mining, and later the plundering of uranium led to the creation of a number of underground corridors that were poorly protected. Years later, the story of Miedzianka, a town that sunk into the ground, was described by Philip Springer, a well-known reporter and writer. It was thanks to the book that the investors of the tower, realized by Robert Konieczny, began to come to the ghost town for the vacation. The place charmed them, and they decided to build a house and an art center in the same time. Originally, the architects proposed not a tower, but 3 small buildings housed. Here you can see on the panel. However, in the end, all 3 functions were located in one building. The slender tower, contrary to many assumptions, does not dominate the landscape, and with its high refers to the shaft that used to be here. According to architectural historian art Jerzy Wajecki, the tower is a sign in the landscape with a meaning past and at the same time a hope for its rebirth in a new shape. The windows and balconies offer extremely spectacular views. Now let's have a look at the extremely modest project. City Sports Square was built over the technical space of the subway and the Ratusz Arsenal station as a part of civic budget. The civic budget, as you probably know, it is a participatory mechanism under which residents of the city have the right to propose tasks to be implemented from a dedicated part of the budget, and then selected by voting those projects that have passed the verification process. Before this implementation, the space was abandoned and neglected. Now it is an attractive barrier-free space with carefully composed greenery. There are walking paths, but also a lane on concrete for roller sports enthusiasts who do not disturb others in this basic place. For comfort and safety, walking paths and those for active recreation are separated. An attractive space has been created with a little expense. And this is another low-budget investment that has won wide recognition. And this year, it was nominated for Miss Van den Rohe Prize. 1,200 square meters for the needs of school of Ukrainian children in the beginning of March 2022 was temporarily handed over by Imona Finance Company in the office building. The pro bono project was handled by XY Studio team with Otwieramy Szkoły Studio. I would like to draw your attention that today I showed you the house for homeless by the same studio XY. As they themselves say, creating socially responsible architecture is our mission. The building was furnished with 11 classrooms, psychological rooms, a common hall, administrative rooms, relaxation areas, and restrooms. Remarkably, all the furnishing are donated by donors, both leading interior design brands and private individuals. Many recycled elements or materials were also used, and it was this aspect that drew the attention of the jury of Architecture Award of the President of Warsaw 2023, awarding the implementation the prize for environmentally friendly solutions. More than 200 male and female volunteers passed through the construction site, including the soldier from Peru, female and male students from Faculty of Architecture, Ukrainian moms, CEOs, directors and employees of corporations, and many, many private individuals. This is this kind of project that puts at the core of architecture as a discipline lay the greatest humanistic values. And also, there is nothing wrong with working as a commercial architect. I think it's quite normal, but I wish you that the most humanistic one will also be your contribution and your strength. Thank you very much, and I recommend you Polish architecture.
Yeah, dear Ewa, thank you so much. I tried to arrive in front of the camera so you can see me. Hello again.
Yes, I see you.
Probably there will be questions from the side of our students, but right at the beginning I would like to ask you a question which is not perhaps directly related to architecture, but it has something to do more with a social background or perhaps political background, because I was wondering that in comparison with Slovakia, there are huge investments in public facilities, and in Poland, and also when I compare the quality of and the architectural quality of public investments with let's say these high-rise glass blocks that we have seen like in the center of Warsaw. So I'm quite interested how it is possible that you have this, how you achieved that, that you have this high quality of public commissions. Like, is it only because of competitions, or is it somehow connected with let's say the process of commissioning those works, or yeah, please, if you can comment on this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Very shortly.
But perhaps can you stop sharing your screen so we can see you properly?
Is it okay? I will, okay. Is it okay now?
Yes, it's just perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to say that that's true, that after 2004, as I mentioned earlier, we had a real boom of new architecture in Poland, and many investment connected with culture. It means museums, it means concert halls, and so on and so on. I made with this subject a lot of exhibitions, traveling exhibitions, and this exhibition traveled through the world. So why it was like this? Because of European fund, and of course because of competition, of many competition. I think it is a very good way to find the best resolution. And that's why I think that it is too complicated to explain very precisely, because it is a big process connected with money, economic, with budget, and so on. But I think that the quality begins on finding the best project.
So thank you. So, but I think anyway that it looks like that your politicians, let's speak not only about like local politicians, but in general, that they are somehow more, let's say, interested in architecture. So, yeah, perhaps this is a question of educational or I don't know, or cultural
Absolutely.
background or whatever.
Absolutely, you're right.
Okay, so dear students, please. Are there some questions from your side? I hope so.
Hello, thank you for your lecture. It was really interesting. I would like to point out one of your slides. You had like a green 3 times with exclamation mark, and I would like to ask you if you see or you noticed some kind of greenwashing in architecture or in some designs in architectural competitions in Poland, because we experience it in different areas, for example, fashion. So if you see something like a greenwashing in architecture or trying to look like really ecological friendly, but being just, I don't know, green roofs and something like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this question. I think it is very important, because it is not only about greenwashing, it is about much more elements of politics. Because architecture is not only the idea, it is also money, it is also budget, and it is also something that some people want to be rich on architecture, you understand. So what I must say, we must look at all projects. And the most important thing is to influence decision makers. I mean governments, local governments, lawmakers, to properly manage our common business. We must make pressure on government to have perfect law, because without it, it is just words. It is only words. We must have mechanism, and it means that government have to work with us. So greenwashing, of course, but we must try to do everything to have better architecture. It means law.
Yeah, thank you. Some more questions, students. yeah, please think about some questions, but I will like to ask you one question because I'm quite curious how you managed to be the editor-in-chief for such a long time, because I was doing the job and it was quite tricky, and it was difficult to let's say, communicate with the publisher, because there was such a huge pressure on what to publish and how to publish it. So if there is a kind of special, let's say, tricks you are using, or it is just because you own the journal, or what's the...
No. My journal belongs to the very big publishing house. It is one of the biggest in Poland. And it is a private business. So it is not easy to be so long the editor-in-chief, but I think that I believe in architecture, and the owner feels it. Yes, the publishing house feels it, that I'm not doing it for money or I don't know what for. But I must say a little bit that it is a little bit boring to be editor-in-chief for such a long time. So that's why I'm organizing conferences, I'm organizing exhibitions and so on, because if you do every day the same, even if it's so important as press, as media, it's not nice. So I found a lot of activities that can be that can give me satisfaction, and to be editor-in-chief is only one part of my life.
Okay, I see. There is one more question I would like to ask you. You mentioned this, let's say, controversial attitude of the public to this new designs, because they've been several for the Museum of Fine Arts, or at the center of Warsaw. So. Do you think that the public, or how it is possible that the public in Poland is so sensitive towards like architecture? Is it usual, or something which happens often, or it was only because of this particular place? Because I have heard that there have been really riots on the place when they started to remove those small markets that used to be before actually the new constructions started. So was it a kind of exception, or it happens like on the day basis?
I think that it happens every day. You know that political situation in Poland is not very easy, and there are many emotions. It is big emotions connected with politics and architecture, and the construction business is a part of politics. So that's why people so emotional discuss. Sometimes it is just a hate, but sometimes these are the real, very important arguments. And I think that, for example, young activists, young architects are very important in this process of changing the values of architecture. So you, as a teacher, can understand it.
I'm not sure if my students will go to fight for, like, against, I don't know, would you? I'm not sure. Okay, we till now in Bratislava, I mean in general in Slovakia, we never had a kind of riots because of demolishing of a kind of architecture or something like this. This is really, it doesn't happen in our country so far, so perhaps it will come. We should start, perhaps, I don't know. Let's take Poland as an example how to do it.
I think that these reflections on architecture are very good to start, because you can see the other aspects from other countries. You know, you meet the real architect. So that's the fantastic beginning.
Okay, our students are so far only writing texts like reflections, but we will think about it that perhaps next year we can do it like public demonstrations on architecture. It might be fun. Okay, so dear students, yeah, as I can see, we have encouraged some more questions. Riots?
Good evening. Thank you for your speech. I'd like to ask, this semester we've had here a lot of, I think, 5 different approaches to the architecture, and I would like to ask, what is for you the most picky problem of the Polish architecture? Because the first one, Piotr Smierzewski, was kind of solving problems of on urban scale of the like industrial cities. Then we've had there the Prolog architecture, which was kind of solving the architecture of peripheries, like small villages and so on. Then kind of Bartosz Hadouch, which was kind of a like space of contemplation, I would like to say about it. And the one more, Jem's studio, which were like kind of very skilled architects, I would say so. And Zygmunt Borowski, which was kind of everywhere but nowhere. I mean, the studio doesn't really exist, but it's kind of collaboration. But you know, they are now solving the most representative space in Poland. So what is for you the problem which the young generation should solve? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think very shortly, because it is not easy to explain in few words, that you must look for your values. You must look for your own values, what is important for you today. And of course, we have a lot of problems with urban design, because urban design, even in Poland, is not so popular. So the studies for cities are not at the very good level, but we are discussing it. But what I see connected with the youngest generation is that they are really very involved to live in the world which is not for money, which is for have a better environment. And I think it is fundamental. It is not the easy way, it isn't, but it can be done. You have to, maybe next time, to ask a very young architect to come and ask him, because I think there are a lot of changes.
Thank you. I think we have had quite a lot of very, very young architects this year. Thank you, however, for your answer. Some more questions, please, if there are. So please raise the hand so I can see you. Okay. So thank you, Eva. I mean, I will now go again in front of the camera so you can see me properly. Yes, I'm here. So I would like to thank you once again. It was really interesting to have it, let's say, have you as a kind of conclusion at the end of the whole series, and I appreciate it very, very much, and I would like to thank you once again for your very concise and interesting speech and presentation. So I hope that you will recover soon, because yeah. So I wish you good progress with your health, and it was nice to have you with us online. So many greetings to Warsaw, and thank you once again. We will give you a small applause at the end. Thank you and goodbye. Dear students, I would like to thank you as well. It was so nice to speak to you via camera. See you next week.
See you. Bye.